Hi, this is voice of the St. Joseph Sports Network, Matt Martucci, and you're listening to Sports and Rants on Radio 1851.
And we are on live with former Los Angeles Ram and first-round pick Mel Owens. How are you doing today, Mel?
I'm doing great, just fine.
So how's life after football been for you?
You know what? It's been great. I can't complain. Obviously, everybody has their ups and downs, but overall, I can't complain. It's been great.
Have you been following any NFL teams this season?
Not really, but I'm not completely blind to it. I have two boys, so my Sundays are filled, so I don't get to sit down and watch the games like I used to. But I read the newspaper. Let's put it that way.
All right, so we're going to get started and talk about your career at Michigan. How does that sound?
Fine.
All right, so how did you get interested in playing football, and what led you to Michigan?
Well, my dad was a basketball coach in high school in Detroit, where I grew up, and I was begging him to play football, and this is back in the '60s, like 67. 66, 67, and I was, 8 years old. And he said, well, I really don't know anywhere to play, but he knew some guys that he had grown up with or worked with. They ran a football program somewhere, so we drove around and found them. And there they were on the field. And I was only 8, and you had to be 9 to play. So the guy, well, you're big enough, you can play. This is back in the days when I didn't sure they had insurance, but. So I ended up playing. I ended up playing with the West Side Cubs, a little league team, and I never stopped playing. And I'm from Detroit, so my dad then got a baseball coach job at Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, Illinois, and we moved there when I was a sophomore. I played 3 years of baseball, football, basketball in high school there, and then Michigan recruited me out of Illinois. They found out that I was from Detroit. My dad was a longtime Detroit coach, and had gone to school there, not at university, but at Western Michigan. Had gone there, so it was sort of like an easy sell. And at the time, Michigan was the number one ranked team in the nation, like 3 years running when I was there. So, it's a great opportunity for me to, accept a scholarship to Michigan and play for Bo Schembechler.
Your dad was like you mentioned, your dad was a long-time Detroit coach. Did he encourage the decision of you becoming linebacker? What brought that up?
No, he didn't play football. He didn't know anything about it and didn't coach football. But, back in those days, there's only a few games on TV, maybe a week, and Monday Night Football hadn't even started, so you're not getting a lot of games. But I liked it. I used to watch CBS, pregame show, and then watch all the previews. Watch all the I collected cards, so I knew it. When I wanted to play, we played in the neighborhood. So I wanted to play, and my dad just he didn't know, and he goes, I think one of my friends runs a program, and he found it. So. My dad wasn't very instrumental in me in playing football or linebacker. He didn't encourage it. He didn't discourage it. He just, there's another sport. So, I loved it, and he didn't have to, prod me to go play. And I walked to practice. So it was like, no big deal to him. So if you want to play, you get there, no problem.
So what was your overall time like at the University of Michigan, and how did it prepare you not only for a future in the NFL, but as a future lawyer as well?
Well, it's surprising because, as a high school kid, and I had skipped the third grade. My class went to Michigan. I was, 17 years old. I went there, and it ranked number 1, and you played against guys that were 3 years old. For me, then they had 125 or 130 scholarship guys, and plus walk-on. So this is a guy in football at the University of Michigan, and you had to be competitive, not only on the field, but in your schoolwork as well. I remember calling my dad up, and I told him, I go, I don't think I'm ever going to play at Michigan. He goes, we can go to school. I got a message, and I studied. I got good grades, and then guys get hurt, guys stop out, they can't play, and all of a sudden, you sort of find your way, and then if you're good, you earn your spot and you get to play. So if you can find your way through 150 players to find a spot at the University of Michigan starting team, you've done something right. And looking back on it, it was a very disciplined program. It was highly motivational, and Bo Schembechler ran that type of program. And if you got through it, you're going to be someone special. That's for sure.
Now, like you said, it's very difficult to play, not just play at Michigan, but start there. And you were named All Big Ten in 1980, and as well as an mentionable All-American in 1980. For you, what was that like being a guy that maybe may or may not be the starter to being one of the best on the team?
Well, my freshman year, again, we're ranked number one. So my freshman year, I was on the demonstration squad. I was, the guy giving the looks for the first team. So I was going against the first team, the number one team in the nation, as a scout team player. So you grow up real fast. Either you're going to get killed or you learn how to play. So just that time on the scout team, which was also very competitive because you wanted to get time on the scout team. You learn how to play, and you play quick and play fast. And when we went to the Rose Bowl the very first year, there was only a 60-man traveling squad. And, we had 150 guys on the team, so there was going to be like 90 guys left off. And I thought I at least earned a spot because of my hard work on the scout team. Obviously, it didn't work out that way. But, that affected me profoundly that I didn't get to travel to the Rose Bowl the first year. So I just told myself, that's never going to happen again. I'm traveling to the Rose Bowl next time. And again, we're ranked number one. So the next year, I ended up playing. I ended up playing starting the second half of the season, I believe, and then traveling to the Rose Bowl. So that little piece of the puzzle, which had me not traveling to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, it changed my thinking altogether in my life. Changed altogether. I said that'll never happen again to me, and I ended up starting the next year.
Now, after an extremely good career at Michigan, you were drafted 9th overall in the NFL draft. Did you expect to be drafted in the top 10? And did your coaches expect you to go that high? What was the atmosphere like for you, still being a senior in college, going into that draft?
Well, one thing that I had, looking back, I had speed. I had speed. At that time, I had redshirted a year, so I caught back up with my class. So that fifth year really helped me at Michigan, and obviously I was starting. And, our defense wasn't a defense that was, the biggest or the best players, but we played within a system, and everybody had to buy into it. So I wasn't the star on the team, but I didn't have to be the star on the team. I was the star with the team, and we were a very good team. I think we ended up third in that year, and probably the hottest team going into the bowl season, because we didn't let up a touchdown for 6 games, and which still hasn't been done since. So, I knew I was good, but that wasn't something I focused on because, you focused on the season. And, Bo wasn't, a big proponent of NFL, guys and scouts. If you were great, that was a good starting point. But he wasn't, saying, hey, you're going to make it to the NFL and you're going to be good, trying and you have a good shot at making the NFL. Just mention it one time whatsoever. The season's over, you start getting phone calls from scouts, and you start getting phone calls from GMs. And again, Bo didn't say anything to me about it. And I probably thought I was going to, get drafted somewhere. I just didn't know how high. My attorney, who I got to represent me, still not a Phil Closius. I said, oh, no, you're going to go to the Rams 19th pick. I go, this guy's crazy. And, this is back before the internet and, before, ESPN. I think ESPN just started in 79 or 80, so it wasn't a big deal with the combine or the draft. So I go, this guy's crazy. And then the Rams traded with Washington to move up to the 9th spot. And my agent and the attorney goes, oh, they just traded up for you. They traded up for you. You're crazy. And remember, guys, I hadn't played in any All-Star games. The Hula Bowl or the Japan Bowl or the East-West. Played any of those games. I wasn't chosen to play in any of those games. I don't know, but so he goes, oh, you're moving up to number 9 for the Rams. So the Rams flew me out to California, and I met with them before the draft. But they didn't give me any inclination of that they were going to draft me. They just wanted to meet me, see what I thought about their scheme. Great meeting. Went back, and I also did it with Philadelphia and Dallas and all the teams. And, Vermeil called me and says, hey, we're going to pick you, if you're around, I think they had the 28th or 25th pick or something, but they had gone to the Super Bowl. So I was, I was getting the feeling, but I never had my hopes up high. And then, when I was a kid, my favorite team was the Rams. I was from Detroit. I loved Deacon Jones. So, when it came to the 9th player pick, I was picked by the Rams, and my attorney was right. And then I got to go to my favorite team. So, did I have an inclination? Not really, other than my attorney, who I hadn't actually chosen yet. And then when I got picked, then I chose him afterwards. Not because of that, a number of things, but he ended up being right.
Life must have been going pretty good for you being drafted by your favorite team. How did you celebrate being drafted so high?
I don't really remember, but I remember sitting in my living room in Ann Arbor, Michigan, watching it on a 13 screen ESPN. They had called me like a pick before. I think it was 15 minutes in between back then. So when after the 8th pick, they called me and said, hey, we're picking you, with the 9th pick. So I knew before it came on TV. But back then, you couldn't Twitter it out. You couldn't even text anybody. You couldn't get on the phone and tell your dad or your mom. Yeah, you're just like sort of caught in a vacuum, just knowing it's going to happen, but waiting for it to happen. But what they told me, I go, I was happy. Obviously, I'm still living in a dream because I got drafted by the Rams. And again, it was my favorite team. So, and I knew, and that was like a glamour team at the time. They had all the stars on the team. They had just went to a Super Bowl a couple of years before that. 4 or 5 years before that, they're a perennial, NFC championship team they've been beaten by the Vikings, 3 or 4 times, the Cowboys. So, I mean, they were a premier team in the NFL as well. So, I was going to leaving a great program, going to another great program in a great place in Southern California.
Now, as a young kid, what was that like for you going into training camp and seeing all these big stars and being in the same locker room as them?
Well, I'm hard to keep my mouth shut when I don't know what to do. So when I was there, I just observed, the way the NFL was, which was completely different than the college experience. Because I remember walking in, the first guy I saw, I looked at the guy's face. I go, God, man, that guy's old. He was, he was like old and wrinkly and tan and just old. I go, how can that guy play football? And I looked up, it was Bob Lee. And, no disrespect to Bob Lee, I love him too, but I go, he was in my board game throughout Automatic when I was like 8 years old. And now I'm playing, with him. And then you find out that the reason they can't play are because they're great football players. They're men. The college and high school, those are boys. The NFL, they're men. And they know how to play football. So, it was different. The pro game is completely different than my experience at Michigan. I mean, obviously I didn't go to these other schools, but, both ran a tight ship. It was, everything was, on the up and up. No fooling around, nothing. Straight football, straight discipline. And so, you got guys that are married, they got kids, and they have different lifestyles. And so I just kept my mouth shut and watched, for the first year, and took it in and watched, and that's the way I learned.
Do you think that there was much of an adjustment period watching, like, just the team play and just being on special teams in your first year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there is. Looking back at it, do you think I could have started? Well, they can put anybody in to start, right? But would you have flourished and done well? Probably not, because you still need to learn the system, and the game is faster, and the guys are bigger, and they are stronger, and they're quicker, and they're more experienced. So there is an adjustment period, and by me waiting and watching and playing on special teams, obviously that gets you acclimated to the game, to the NFL game, to the pro game, the speed of the game, the way players play, the way coaches coach. Again, it's a job too. So there's no guaranteed contract, so they could release you at any time. It wasn't like at Michigan where you're the star and you're going to be playing. If you don't pan out, you're gone. So we had a good team. Wasn't great at that time. They had to switch coaches. So still you got to learn the speed of the game and how the pros play it, which is different than the college guys play it, because it's obviously a different atmosphere. So the first year waiting was beneficial to me.
For you, coming in, the Rams were still considered one of the better defenses in the league, always behind the Bears as one of the best defenses. For you, what was it like strapping up and being beside guys like Jack Youngblood and Gary Jeter?
Well, when I first came in, Jeter wasn't there. Jeter came a few years later. But when I first came in, it was like the who's who. They had Nolan Cromwell, Fred Dreyer, Cody Jones, Mike Fanning, both Youngbloods, Pat Thomas, Rod Perry. They had George Andrews at the linebacker. They had just let Hacksaw Reynolds go. Carl Ecker. I mean, they had stars everywhere, right? But obviously it's a privilege to play with those guys because you can learn a lot. And they were pros. I mean, they knew how to take care of their business. When game time came, they played. They practiced as well. So being in that atmosphere where it's a top premier team, obviously was great for me. If I'd have gone somewhere where it was horrible or not as good, who knows what would have happened. But learning from just the way they approached the game was, again, very beneficial to me.
You became a starter and played most of your career in a 3-4 defense. Do you consider that formation more effective than a 4-3?
Well, everybody attacks defenses differently, and you only play a defense. You should only play your defense because of the personnel you have. If you don't have 4-3 personnel and you have 4-3 or vice versa, you better change, and you better invent some defenses as well. When I came there, they were playing a 4-3, but they had the big linemen. They had Cody Jones. They had Fanning. They had Youngblood. So they could play a 4-3 and even sometimes a 3-4. But more likely than not, the smart coaches will look at the personnel you have and then make adjustments thereafter.
Now, for you, with training camp, did you ever get an opportunity to face off with Eric Dickerson? And what was it like watching him play? He's one of the greats, we all know.
Well, I believe Eric came in '83, broke the record in '84, and so that was my the third year in the league, and we had just changed coaches to John Robinson. And in my opinion, and I played against a lot of the great guys. I played against Walter Payton. I played against Emmett Smith. Eric Dickerson is the best running back ever played the game. Big, strong, fast, and he got it done. It wasn't like he had all those physical attributes and was good. I mean, he got it done. I mean, there were times when John Robinson would walk by the coordinator, you know, and it's third down and like 16 to go, and he'd go, keep it on the ground. You know, nowadays you'd never do that, but you had Dickerson, you know, so you get Dickerson thinking he's going to get 16 or 17 yards, and he got it. And, you know, so obviously I played against him in practice, so I got to see him, when nobody else was watching him, and, the fans or the other team, when I'm watching him practice and watching how he practiced and watching him in the game. And then, we got traded to Indianapolis and I played against him. But my opinion never changed. He's the greatest running back of all time. If things had been probably a little bit different for him, he would have put the record so far out of reach. It would have been entirely, not even generations. We wouldn't be alive until someone broke those records.
So was there any specific player, quarterback, running back, that your defense hated going up against, or you specifically hated going up against?
Well, obviously we were in the same division as San Francisco when they had their great run, through the 80s. So, obviously, Jerry Rice, Joe Montana, and I played against Joe Montana in college, and beat them down there, I think it was in 78. So, he was a guy that, I sort of, I had familiarity with and, played against, but that team was just phenomenal. But to us, it really didn't matter because they were in our division. It wasn't like you're going to play them once every 2 or 3 years. We faced them all the time. So they were our rivals. And, I think if you look at the regular season, it was pretty much, but that was in the playoffs, it counted. So while there's a lot of players out there, individual players we played against, that were just great, like Dan Marino. I never hated to play against guys. I actually loved playing against him because I liked him. I liked watching him play and playing against him, and seeing how good they were. So, like Dan Marino, again, was a guy I think who's a great quarterback we played against. Dan Fouts, who we scrimmaged against, every training camp. And Dan Fouts is a Hall of Fame guy, and we saw him all the time. Kellen Winslow, I went against him, hundreds of times, because we scrimmaged with them and practiced with them during training camp. So, just the experience of playing, in the NFL, every game you're going to have somebody on their team that you go, oh, my God, there he is, like, oh, my God, there's John Hanna, oh, my God, there's Steve Grogan, or, there's Jim Hart, or, there's Lawrence Taylor. So, everybody has the stars. It's just really, it was a privilege to compete and play against them.
Now, we're going to get more into your law career now. How did you go from playing in the NFL to becoming the lawyer you are today?
Well, my attorney, who again is still my attorney today, and, we do business together and, talk to him all the time. After I finished playing, I had my degree at Michigan, so I go, I'm going to get a business degree. He goes, well, he goes, you might want to reconsider and get a law degree. He goes, I'm partial to it, number one, but number two, he goes, you can do more with a law degree than you can with a business degree. So I said, well, okay, so, I investigated schools, that I could apply to, that, because I was living in California. I would travel if I had to, no big deal. So, I got it down to like 5 or 6 schools, and I ended up going to University of California at San Francisco, Hastings School of Law. So that's how I got into it, more or less. I mean, I was going to go get a degree after I left football, and he just convinced me that the law degree would probably be the best way to go, for my future.
Did you know you wanted to represent former athletes in the fashion you do now?
No, that was something that never really crossed my mind. And I went into law school and, approaching, being an attorney, it's just wide open. I had traveled a lot, around the world. I was interested in international business, and so whatever happened, I was going to be open to. I wasn't going to, just concentrate on one thing. I was going to see what came my way. And, a lot of guys who play, me included, think like, once my football career is ended, I don't think I have another career left in me. But what really happens is you still have all those opportunities, and a lot of it is because, that you played at Michigan and you played in the NFL. And if you apply yourself correctly, you're going to have some opportunities come your way. So, I didn't go into it thinking I'm going to represent players. As a matter of fact, but when I got into law, I had, not on purpose, but I had distanced myself from like the sports scene and just concentrating on doing my law school. Where if I wasn't playing fantasy, I wasn't into tracking the box scores, watching the teams. I was not disinterested, but I wasn't really interested in it. I just didn't really watch it, didn't care. I was just studying, and so I wasn't really thinking like, I'm going to go concentrate on players. So I got to keep in the loop and talk to agents and talk to former players. I didn't think of it that way. So, that really didn't cross my mind.
After playing in the NFL and now being a lawyer, did your connections help you to get cases?
Well, it didn't hurt. Let's put it that way. Once you find out someone who has like experiences, you sort of tend to drift toward those people. But at the end of the day, it's leadership. And if they don't think you can do the job, they don't care who you are, they're going to hire you. You're my friend, I'll have a beer with you, but you're not going to represent me. You're not going to do my taxes. So, you still got to earn the trust to do the job. And I have a passion for it. And it's just something that, I've played, for so many years, ever since I was 8 years old. And, I had the good, the bad, and the indifferent happen along the way. So, when I got in a position to help, the ability to help players, that was an opportunity that I took advantage of.
What are your thoughts on all of these injury repercussions we're seeing now with former players now coming out saying they had concussions during their careers, especially with NHL and NFL players?
Well, that's a reality. And that's just a byproduct of the game. It's a collision sport. You're going to get hit. And I got two boys, 7 and 9. They don't play tackle football, but they play soccer, they play basketball, they play flag football, they play baseball, and the little league or the little 10 and under basketball, they hit more there than they do in soccer or in flag football. I mean, it's they hit, and then when you play Pop Warner or high school, college, pro, you get hit. Lacrosse, soccer, you get hit. So if you don't want to get hit, stay on the couch and play Madden football or play Madden soccer, whatever the play is, right?
Right.
And that's just the reality of it. If my boy got hit with a bat in his arm. He plays catcher. And he wants to play football. I said, if you can't handle this little league catching, you're going to hate football. You're going to hate football because you get it every time. So but here's the difference. Is that when they learned about concussions, when people who have the authority and knowledge, did the studies and came to conclusions that the concussions are going to have, long-term effects, and then didn't pass the information along to the players, that's the problem. Okay? That's the problem. And they knew. And they didn't share the information, and they didn't give the players, warning, or they put them back to play when they shouldn't have been playing. And they knew, or they should have known, because they're in a superior position to know those type of medical facts. And they did, and they didn't share it, because they knew that if you hold out, 10, 15 guys from a team, the product won't look the same. And if it doesn't look the same, you can't sell the product like you were selling at the beginning of the season, or the last season, or in your merchandising. So, the contact, the collisions are going to be there, but it's the club's responsibility, it's the team's responsibility, it's the owners, it's the league who know these things, because it starts from the top and it goes down, and they knew, and they didn't do anything about it, and now they want to seek cover and say, oh, we didn't know. Well, then let's open discovery and we'll find out, because we know it's from the NFL down, not the teams, because the teams are just part of the association. They get guidance from headquarters, which is on Park Avenue.
Right now, is it being fixed with what the NFL is doing with this with the specific protocol?
Ask me the question again.
Is it being fixed right now with what the NFL is doing with the specific protocol? Because you mentioned that it started with the top of the NFL and it trickled down to the teams, and the teams aren't like following up with what the protocol is. Is it better now?
Well, is it better? Yes, it's better because when you can get completely knocked out, they don't put you in the game. So it's better from that standpoint. But I just saw a video a couple of weeks ago of a guy from San Diego getting knocked out twice and having a seizure on the field where he was playing. He got knocked out in the first quarter and he kept on playing. And, you can just watch the games and see. I was watching the replays yesterday on ESPN where guys were getting knocked out, but he kept on playing. The guy got a concussion, for sure. Now, to what degree, I don't know. But they're getting concussed all over. You got to come to grips with it and just say, hey, look, guys are going to get hurt, okay? Guys are going to get hurt. But you got to tell them. You got to tell them. You can't hide it and say, oh, by the way, we really need him back on the field because, he's our second string and our third string's horrible. So we got to keep the second string on the field still. So that's what's still going on, in my opinion. Guys are getting hurt, and, if it's horrible, they take them out. If it's mild to medium, they keep them in.
Now, as both a lawyer and a parent, what's your opinion? Nowadays, people are talking about not letting their kids play football and avoiding that because it's such a young age. The possibility of concussions are higher. What's your whole opinion on that issue? And many people are saying that football's going to be losing in the mainstream of sports because of that.
Well, I've had the opportunity and privilege to attend some high-end presentations by Dr. Cantu, who's a premier neurosurgeon, Dr. Amalo, Dr. Sam Gandy. These guys are on the cutting edge of the neuropsychology and neuroscience dealing with the brain and concussions. And I've attended maybe a half dozen of these, and it gets better each time. But the doctor's opinions is that you shouldn't let your kids actually have playing a contact sport like football or hockey until after 14, and that's because of the repetitive head trauma. And they call it the bobblehead effect. Just the other day for Halloween, I went to my kids' school and there's a dress up day, and guys were wearing all sorts of costumes, and some were wearing like the costumes of the Chargers and the Rams or whatever. And then I saw one kid, I go, wow, that guy looks like he has a real uniform on. Right? It wasn't like a costume, it was like a real uniform. So I walked around, and sure enough, he had the real shut helmet on, he had the real shoulder pads on, he had his uniform on. And I saw how big the helmet was compared to his head. And I go, that's what the bobblehead effect is like. Because the helmet probably weighs more than his head, right? And obviously, the tiny brain in there is in the same gel that's in our brain, and he's getting hit. I mean, if he's a good player, he's probably trying to hit more. If he's not as good, he's probably getting hit a lot more in the wrong way. So the medical posture on this is that you probably shouldn't play before 14. Now, I've seen little guys play, at 7, 8, 9, 10. Do they generate enough speed? Not really. They just, they're grabbing, throwing people to the ground. But they got helmets on, and they're hitting. And you get guys who are pretty good that's been playing since probably 5 or 6, and now he's 9, he's been playing for 3 years, and he's developed. I mean, he can cause damage. One guy can cause some damage on the field. So, is football gonna go away? Probably not. But I think as time goes along, it'll probably be marginalized. And parents that would otherwise say, "Oh yeah, this is part of the fabric of the landscape of the United States. You're going to play." They go, "Well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to let you have that football experience, even from Pop Warner to high school, and you're never going to play again. I'm not going to have that experience. Why? Because you're not going to go anywhere anyway. So why would I, allow my kid to get hurt?" So and only the guys are the most willing and are most ardent. They want to play. They're going to play. Everybody else, they probably won't take the chance because, my kid's not good anyway. He's not a football type of a guy. We're not going to experiment with football. We'll go play soccer. We'll go play lacrosse. We'll swim, play tennis, play baseball. We'll do something else. So, we won't know until the next 20 years. But from what I'm reading, it's down across, especially in the Midwest, down about 10 to 20% in Pop Warner. So it's down 10 or 15% in Pop Warner. It'll be down in high school. And, when you walk around the high schools and coaches are looking for guys, and they see big guys walking in the hallway, and they go, hey, you need to play football. They go, I'm not playing because I never played before. And my first foray into playing football won't be as a sophomore for your high school team. So you're going to have a diminished pipeline with these kids because just the normal population that would have played is now playing some other sport. And that's just my opinion. So, you can look at the literature, it'll tell you that. And I think what the moms in particular are saying, I'm not going to make kid play. And that's what's happening.
Now, to switch gears a little bit, what's your opinion on the whole painkiller addiction? We saw many athletes during the 70s and 80s, especially football players, had an addiction to painkillers. Have you noticed this trend to be dying down a little bit with the current players?
No, that's our lawsuit. We filed that lawsuit in San Francisco, so I'm well versed on it. Let's just be frank about it. You're not going to play professional football without medication because you can't. All you do is watch a game and see how they play, and there's no way, and I've experienced it in my 10 years in the league, there's no way you can play professional football without medication. Can't. It's impossible. The aches and pains in your body are too great. I can't even walk today from just pitching batting practice to my kids. I need medication. And I remember playing, really for the very first time in the NFL, when Jim Youngblood got hurt, and I had to go and play. I think it might have been the preseason or one of the first games when I was on the team. And I woke up the next day. I go, oh my God! I go, they're not paying me enough to play this game. The way I felt, it was unbelievable. So, has it changed? No, it's just gotten more sophisticated. And if you let the players completely heal, you would really need about 150 to 200 guys on the roster to fulfill a realistic medical protocol. Otherwise, you guys are playing hurt, and the only way you can numb the pain is with medication. And if you just took all the medication out of football and said, by the way, guys, it's medication-free, you'd have guys not playing. It's impossible. It'd be a different game altogether.
Now, do you think the NFL should create some sort of program to help their athletes and their former athletes to wean themselves off of the painkillers after they played?
Well, they'll tell you that there's a lot of programs in place. And there are programs in place. I haven't tried them. I haven't accessed them, so I can't really speak, right on point. But from what I hear from former players, it's not that good, or it's too cumbersome. It's too hard to do it. It's not adequate enough. And those programs are controlled by the NFL. And if you're controlled by the Fox, then the Fox gets called rules. And remember, these are the guys this is the league that hurt the guys. So they're not really inclined to admit it, number one. And number two, they always blame the player. And it's really convenient to say, 85% of the players after the NFL are divorced, broke, bankrupt, out of, sick or whatever. Well, the reason they are is because the game's done it to them. The players haven't done it to themselves. The game is that harsh. It's that bad physically. So when you leave the game completely battered, and that's the reason why you leave the game, if you're halfway decent, you are faced with all of these emotional and physical and sociological problems. And, society can say, oh, woe is me. But this is an industry that was created, and that's the byproduct of playing, of participating in. You don't say to the coal miners, hey, you're mining coal, black lung, that's just part of the deal. They don't say that. There's laws in place to protect those guys. So The NFL, will they create more programs? No, they've gone after players' workers' compensation with a zeal unknown, unseen in my professional experience. They want to cut out every single right a player has to workers' compensation because they know that will cost them money. Well, much more than a concussion lawsuit will ever pay out. Workers' compensation will be 10 times, 100 times greater if they didn't shut that program down for the players. So they went in and took away a person's state rights in more than a dozen states. And in all the other states that they play in, they're fighting tooth and nail to get rid of them. So, no, they're not interested in helping the players.
Now, in your opinion, how does a league like the NFL view somebody like you who played in the league and now you're bringing up lawsuits against leagues? How do you think they view you, and what's your opinion of it?
I think they love me. I'm just kidding, of course. And I don't know, and quite frankly, I don't care. But I'll tell you this: when they see probably my name on there, they know this guy is fighting for the players. And, they're formidable. They got billions of dollars that they're making, every single week. And they went to Sacramento, the capital, the state capital of California, and outright changed the law. And I saw it happen right in front of my eyes, and it was an unbelievable experience where one industry can come in, an industry that holds itself out in New York. It has teams everywhere, right? But there's only 3 teams in California, but the other 30 or 28, 29 teams, and all the owners and all the NFL came into California to stop California. So that tells you a lot, okay? The California teams weren't the only ones saying, hey, we got to stop this. The NFL came, and they brought their money, and they brought their might, and they won. So, and we fought them. And, we were not able to prevail whole part, but we salvaged a maybe a sliver, a 2, 3, 4, 5% of benefits for the players. But they went after it, and when they went after it, they went after it hard, and they crushed it, and they won. They got a lot of money. You could smell the money when you left. It was palpable. You could hear it in the legislators' voices. I was embarrassed for California that they let the NFL come in there and push them around like little kids, and they changed the law. They've also changed the law in Arizona, Illinois, Michigan, Texas, Florida, and the list goes on. They've done it. So, when they see my name, hopefully they know that, they'll be in for a battle. But it's tough, because they got all the money and nothing matters to them. And when you have unlimited money, you have unlimited funds, you just go for it. Because one of the players told me what Mike Brown said, the owner of the Bengals. He goes, when one gets, they all get. So what that told me, he goes, we're gonna stop it right now, because we're gonna stop that one from getting, because we don't want all of them to get. So they got their own program in place by stopping the players and the benefits. And when they come out there and say, oh yeah, we really care about player safety, please. Then why'd you go change the law in half a dozen states last year?
So for somebody like me who wants to get in the field that you're in, representing players in sports law, what would you recommend for college students right now if they want to follow this path?
Well, I don't know if you can just focus in and dedicate yourself. So when I get out of law school, I'm going to work at an agency, that I'm going to go work, in a law firm that does, disability. I guess you could do that, but I think you're limiting yourself to such a narrow business model that it'll never work out for you. Could it? Maybe. There's only maybe a half dozen guys that are actually doing this as well. It's a niche market. It's something that I didn't plan on doing myself. If anybody had a plan, I'd say keep it wide open. You might want to do this, but there's other things to do. And you're going to reinvent yourself maybe 3-4 times in your life. So you don't want to be so narrow-minded and so one-sided where you can't go do something else if this doesn't work for you, or the industry is shut down. The NFL is trying to shut the industry down. So there may not be a job out there in the future.
Now, as we're wrapping up the interview here, we want to know, what was your favorite moment during your career?
Retiring.
All right, and is there anything that you want to promote or tell the listeners about?
What you're doing today or anything?
Well, I have nothing really to promote other than, just, obviously, your listeners obviously are educated, but, just keep an open view of what's going on in sports. View it as, not only as a fantasy football or an ESPN type of industry. This is a real industry. This is like Ford Motor Company. This is like the food industry. This is like the internet. These are real things happening at real time. There's real lives at stake. It's great theater watching it on TV. It's the best game ever to watch on TV. I still like the pro game, but I love college. And Saturdays I'm glued to the TV watching college football. I just love it, right? And so, just have an open mind. When you watch these, these are real guys playing. And especially with real families, and it's not the players' fault that they're like that. It's the industry, because the industry was born out of whole cloth. It was made this way for 100 years. And people will say, well, you chose to do that. True, you chose to do that, but you didn't choose to come out maimed. And if that could be prevented in some way with the doctors or the league saying, hey, look, we've put protocols in place to protect, the men who play this game, and then you'll have reassurances going forward that the game is safe as it can be. Because, you wouldn't inject your kid in high school to go and play. You just wouldn't. You just wouldn't. You wouldn't give your kid anti-inflammatories to go play. You just wouldn't. Even though if he's hurt and he's painkillers after a surgery, yes, you'd give it to him then and let him heal, but you wouldn't, pull him up to go play, or you wouldn't let him go out on the field concussed afterwards. You just wouldn't. So, the listeners, be it younger people who are just starting their careers or, young families, keep in mind, what happens in these sports. Sports obviously is a great thing. You need to play it. All the sports to, have a well-rounded life. But, keep an open mind. As you listen to this interview and then you read in the papers and make sure you get all the facts.
All right, Mel, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us. We learned a lot, and we'd love to have you on again sometime.
Hey, no problem, guys. Anytime.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
This concludes our podcast of Sports and Rants with Brent and Pan. Thank you for listening. Please follow us on Twitter @Sports and Rants. Like us on Facebook. Remember to subscribe to us on iTunes. And visit our website, www.sportsandrantz.blogspot.com. It would help our rankings on iTunes if you rate and review our podcast. Thanks, and have a good day.